The sky above Altheris burned orange and red. Smoke rose from 1,000 fires across the land. The great cities that once touched the clouds now lay in broken pieces. The beautiful gardens where children once played were now fields of ash and bone. Elder Priest Athani stood at the highest window of the Temple of Final Light. His old eyes watched another city fall in the distance. The flash of light came first, then the sound of destruction, then the silence. Always the silence after. The Keth had come 3 cycles ago. 3 long cycles of death and running and hiding. The Valori had tried to fight. They had sent their ships against the enemy. The Keth destroyed them in hours. They had sent their soldiers to defend the cities. The Keth killed them like insects. Now there was nothing left. No ships. No soldiers. No hope. Athani turned from the window. Behind him, in the great hall of the temple, 10,000 Valori survivors huddled together. They were the last of their kind. Mothers held their children close. The old supported the young. The wounded lay on the cold stone floor, waiting to die. They had nowhere else to go. The temple was the last safe place on the planet, and soon the Keth would come for it too. Elder Athani, a young voice called. He looked down. A small girl stood before him. Her name was Kira. She had lost her parents in the first attacks. She had walked alone through burning streets to reach this temple. She was only 8 cycles old, but her eyes held the weight of someone much older. Yes, child? Athani asked. Are the gods coming to save us? Athani felt his heart break. What could he tell her? That he had prayed every day since the invasion began? That he had begged the old gods for help? That the sky remained empty no matter how loud he screamed. We must have faith, he said. It was all he could offer. Kira nodded slowly. She did not believe him. He could see it in her eyes. She was too young to understand gods, but old enough to understand death. She walked back to sit alone in a corner of the temple. Athani climbed the steps to the sacred altar. The other priests gathered around him. They wore the white robes of their order, now stained with dirt and blood. Their faces showed exhaustion and fear. The Keth war barges are descending, said Priest Nalith. He was younger than Athani, but his hair had turned white from stress in the past cycle. Our scouts report at least 50 ships. They are coming for the final harvest. The final harvest. That was what the Keth called it. They did not simply kill. They collected. They took the bodies of the fallen for purposes too horrible to imagine. The Valori had heard stories from other species the Keth had conquered. 40 civilizations had fallen to the Dominion. 40 species had been harvested. The Valori would be the 41st. Then we must pray, Athani said. One final time. We must call out to the gods with everything we have. The priests looked at each other. Some had lost their faith long ago. Others clung to it like a drowning person clings to floating wood. But they all nodded. What else could they do? Athani raised his hands. His voice echoed through the great hall. 10,000 Valori looked up at him. 10,000 pairs of eyes filled with desperate hope. O gods of light and mercy, Athani began. Hear us now in our darkest hour. We have served you faithfully. We have lived in peace. We have done no evil. Yet darkness has come to consume us. We beg you, send us salvation. Send us warriors to defend the innocent. Send us hope in this time of despair. Please, please, do not let us die alone. The prayer rose from 10,000 throats. The sound filled the temple and spilled out into the burning night. It was the sound of a dying species calling out to the universe for help. Outside, the Keth war barges continued their descent. Their shadow fell across the land. Commander Revan, the last surviving military leader of the Valori, watched them from the temple walls. He held a weapon in his hands, but he knew it would do nothing against the enemy. He was a soldier who had no war left to fight. "They will be here within the hour," he said to no one. The prayer continued. Athani's voice grew louder. Tears streamed down his old face. He had served the gods his entire life. He had believed with all his heart. Now, at the end, he felt only emptiness. The sky was silent. No divine light appeared. No angels descended. The gods had abandoned them. Or perhaps, Athani thought, there were no gods at all. Then something happened. At first, Athani thought his old eyes were playing tricks on him. A point of light appeared in the sky, but it was not like the light of the Keth weapons. It was different. It was a tear in space itself. The fabric of reality seemed to split open like a wound. The prayer stopped. Every Valori in the temple stared upward through the great windows. Something emerged from the tear. A ship. But not like any ship the Valori had ever seen. It was black as the void between stars. Its shape was angular and brutal, without the graceful curves of Valori design or the organic look of Keth vessels. It looked like a weapon given form. It looked like violence made solid. More ships followed. 5, 10, 20. They moved in perfect formation, silent and deadly. Commander Revan gripped his weapon tighter. "What are they?" he whispered. The answer came moments later. A transmission broadcast across all frequencies. The voice that spoke was harsh and strange, using words in broken Valori language. "This is the Terran Republic vessel Ragnarok. We received your distress call 3 days ago. We came as fast as we could. All civilian populations, stand clear of combat zones. Repeat, stand clear." Then the voice switched to a language no Valori had ever heard. It was rough and hard, full of sharp sounds. A battle language. A predator's tongue. The black ships turned toward the Keth armada. Elder Athani fell to his knees. His body trembled. He had prayed for gods of light and mercy. He had begged for angels to save them. Instead, the universe had sent something else entirely. The Valori knew of humans only through whispered stories and terrible rumors. They were called the Deathworlders. They came from a planet so hostile, so violent, that simply surviving there made them into something other species could barely understand. Kira appeared at Athani's side. She looked up at the black ships in the sky. Her young eyes showed no fear, only wonder. "Are those the gods?" she asked. Athani watched as the first Terran ship opened fire on the Keth armada. The explosion lit up the night brighter than any sun. The sound of battle filled the air. "No, child," he whispered. "We prayed to the gods." But it was the demons of Terra who came. Commander Revan had fought in 17 battles during the war with the Keth. He had watched his fleet burn. He had seen his soldiers die. He thought he understood combat. He thought he knew what war looked like. He was wrong. The humans did not fight like any species he had ever seen. They did not announce themselves. They did not demand surrender. They did not follow any of the rules of engagement that civilized species used. The moment they arrived, they attacked. Pure and simple and absolute. The lead ship, the one called Ragnarok, moved through the Keth formation like a knife through soft fruit. It fired weapons that Revan could not understand. Beams of light that cut through Keth armor like it was paper. Missiles that seemed to think for themselves, chasing enemy ships even when they tried to run. The Keth were not prepared. No one had ever attacked them first. On the bridge of the Ragnarok, Captain Tewu stood perfectly still. He was a tall man with a face that showed no emotion. His eyes moved across the display screens, taking in every piece of information. Around him, his crew worked in perfect silence. They had done this many times before. "Enemy formation is breaking," reported his tactical officer. They are trying to regroup around the command vessel. "Do not let them," Tae-woo said. His voice was calm and cold. "Split their forces. Hit them from 3 angles. Make them choose which direction to defend." The Terran ships obeyed instantly. They moved as one, like the fingers of a single hand. The Keth tried to respond, but they were too slow. Every time they turned to face one threat, another appeared behind them. Warlord Sithrak watched from his command vessel with growing rage. He had conquered 40 species. He had never lost a single battle. These humans were supposed to be primitive. The intelligence reports said they were young, barely spacefaring for a few hundred years. How could they fight like this? "Destroy them," Sithrak screamed at his officers. "Use all our weapons. Burn them from the sky." The Keth tried. They truly tried. They fired everything they had at the Terran ships. But the humans were never where the weapons expected them to be. They moved constantly, changing patterns, never staying still. It was like trying to catch smoke with bare hands. One Terran dropship broke away from the main battle. It dove toward the planet's surface, heading for the area near the temple. Keth fighters chased it, firing missiles and energy beams. The dropship was hit. Smoke poured from its side. It began to fall. Kira watched from the temple window as the burning ship crashed into the ruins of a nearby city. The impact shook the ground. Fire and smoke rose from the crash site. She thought everyone inside must be dead. But then something moved in the wreckage. A figure climbed out of the broken ship. Even from this distance, Kira could see that the figure was different from any being she had ever seen. It was roughly her height, but its body was thick and dense. It moved with a strange smoothness, like a hunting animal. The figure was a woman. Kira would learn later that her name was Lieutenant Hana Kim. She was the combat specialist of the Ragnarok, and she was very, very angry that someone had shot down her ship. 12 Keth hunters surrounded her. They were elite soldiers, the best the Dominion had. Each one stood twice as tall as Hana. Their bodies were covered in thick armor. Their weapons could cut through steel. Hana looked at them. She was bleeding from a wound on her head. Her left arm hung at a bad angle, probably broken. She reached to her belt and pulled out a simple blade. It was not a laser weapon or a plasma cutter. It was just metal, shaped for cutting. The Keth laughed. The sound was harsh and cruel. A tiny female with a primitive weapon against 12 of their finest warriors? This would be easy. The first Keth charged at her. Kira did not see exactly what happened next. It was too fast. One moment the Keth was running toward Hana. The next moment it was on the ground with its throat opened. Hana was already moving toward the second enemy. The fight lasted less than 1 minute. 12 Keth hunters, the terror of 40 conquered worlds, fell one after another. Hana moved between them like water flowing around stones. She ducked under their attacks. She slipped past their guards. Her blade found the weak points in their armor with perfect accuracy. When it was over, Hana stood alone among the bodies. She was breathing hard. More blood covered her face and arms, some of it her own, most of it not. She looked up at the temple where Kira was watching. Their eyes met across the distance. Kira felt something she could not name. It was fear, yes, but also something else. Something like hope. High above, the battle continued. Captain Tae-woo had disabled 6 Keth warships and destroyed 4 others. The enemy fleet was in chaos. For the first time in their history, the Keth were retreating. "Captain," the communications officer said, "Warlord Sithrak is demanding to speak with you." Tae-woo raised an eyebrow. "Put him through." The image of Sithrak appeared on the main screen. The Keth warlord was massive, covered in ritual scars and battle trophies. His 4 eyes burned with hatred. "Who are you?" Sithrak demanded. "What gives you the right to interfere in Dominion affairs?" Tae-Woo looked at the warlord for a long moment before answering. "I am Captain Tae-Woo of the Terran Republic Navy. We received a distress call from this world. We came to answer it." "These creatures are our prey," Sithrak said. "They belong to us. Leave now, and we will allow you to live." Tae-Woo smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator showing its teeth. "I have a different offer," he said. "Take your remaining ships and leave this system. Never return. Never threaten these people again. Do this, and I will allow you to live." Sithrak stared at him in disbelief. No one had ever spoken to him this way. No one had ever dared. "You have 1 ship," Sithrak said. "I have an armada. You cannot win this fight." Tae-Woo nodded slowly. "You are correct that I have only 1 ship. But you are wrong about the rest. Look at your fleet, warlord. Count how many ships you have lost. Consider how many more you will lose if you continue this battle. I have been fighting for 30 minutes. I can fight for 30 hours if necessary. Can you?" The communication ended. Sithrak's face disappeared from the screen. On the surface, Lieutenant Hana Kim began walking toward the temple. Each step was painful. Her body was damaged in a dozen places. But she kept moving. There were civilians to protect. There was a mission to complete. Commander Revan met her at the temple gates. He had his weapon raised, not sure if this creature was friend or enemy. Hana looked at him. Blood dripped from her chin. Her eyes were dark and tired. "I am Lieutenant Hana Kim," she said in broken Valori. "I am here to help. Take me to your wounded." Revan lowered his weapon. He had seen this woman kill 12 of the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy with a simple blade. Now she was asking to help the wounded. "What are you?" he whispered. Hannah wiped the blood from her face. She looked at the frightened Valori gathering behind Revan. She saw the children, the old ones, the injured. She saw their fear of her. "I am human," she said. "Nothing more. Nothing less. Now please, take me to your wounded. I am trained in field medicine, and I want to help." In the sky above, the Keth fleet held its position. The battle had paused, but everyone knew it was not over. The demons of Terra had arrived, and everything had changed. The Terran shuttle landed in front of the temple as the sun rose over Altheris. The Valori watched from windows and doorways, too afraid to come closer. They had seen what the humans could do in battle. They did not know what the humans would do in peace. Captain Tae-Woo stepped off the shuttle first. He was followed by Dr. Unipark, the ship's medic, and Private Jin Ho, a young soldier carrying supplies. More humans followed, setting up equipment and creating a defensive perimeter around the temple. Elder Priest Athani walked out to meet them. His legs felt weak. His heart beat too fast. The being before him was something from nightmare stories. Tae-Woo stood tall and straight, his body thick with muscle and dense bone. His eyes were forward-facing, like a predator's. His skin was a strange color, somewhere between brown and gold, and it seemed to resist the heat of the twin suns. "I am Captain Tae-Woo," the human said. His Valori was imperfect but understandable. "We have established orbital control. The Keth cannot attack from above while we are here, but they still have ground forces in the region. We need to prepare defenses." Athani struggled to find words. "Why?" he finally asked. "Why did you come? We are strangers to you. You owe us nothing." Tae-Woo looked at him with those predator eyes. For a moment, Athani thought he saw something behind the cold surface. Something warm. "You called for help," Tae-Woo said simply. We were close enough to hear. That is all the reason we need." He turned and began giving orders to his soldiers. Athani stood frozen in place, trying to understand. In his experience, no one did anything without expecting something in return. What did the humans want? Inside the temple, Dr. Una Park had set up a medical station. The wounded Valori lay in rows, too many to count. Una moved among them with gentle hands and soft words. She spoke slowly so they could understand her broken Valori. The first patient was a young male with burns covering half his body. When Una reached out to touch him, he screamed in terror and tried to crawl away. "Please," Una said, keeping her voice calm. "I will not hurt you. I am a healer. I want to help with your pain." The young male stared at her with wide eyes. Una's hand was close to his face. He could feel the heat coming from her skin. It was wrong. No living thing should be so warm. "Your body," he whispered. "It burns like fire." Una smiled sadly. "Yes, humans run hot. Our planet is cold, so our bodies create heat to survive. I know it feels strange, but I promise my hands will bring healing, not harm." She waited. She did not force herself on him. She let him make the choice. After a long moment, he nodded slightly. Una began treating his wounds. She applied medication that numbed the pain. She cleaned the burns with gentle solutions. She wrapped clean bandages around the damaged areas. The young male watched her work with growing wonder. "The pain," he said. "It is fading. Good. That means the medicine is working." Una patted his shoulder softly. "Rest now. I will check on you again soon." She moved to the next patient and the next. Word spread through the temple. The demon healer was kind. The demon healer took away pain. One by one, the Valori began to trust her. Private Jinho worked outside, helping to unload supplies from the shuttle. He was young, barely 20 Earth years old. This was his first real mission. He had trained for combat, but nothing had prepared him for what he saw on Altheris. The children affected him the most. They huddled together in small groups, too tired to play, too scared to speak. Their eyes followed him everywhere. He recognized that look. It was the look of those who had lost everything. Jinho found a quiet corner where several children had gathered. Among them was Kira, the girl who had watched Hannah fight the Keth Hunters. She sat apart from the others, alone with her grief. Jinho approached slowly. He did not want to frighten her. He sat down about 3 meters away, close enough to be present, but far enough to be non-threatening. He removed his helmet and set it aside. Kira looked at him. Without the helmet, he seemed less frightening. His face was round and soft, his eyes dark but kind. He had strange short black hair that stuck up in different directions. "Hello," Jinho said in careful Valori. "My name is Jinho. What is your name?" Kira did not answer. She just watched him, waiting to see what he would do. Jinho reached into his pocket and pulled out a small package. He opened it and took out a flat rectangle of something brown. He broke it in half and held one piece toward Kira. "This is chocolate," he said. "It is food from my home world. It is very good. Would you like to try?" Kira hesitated. She had not eaten in 2 days. The smell from the brown thing was strange but pleasant. Finally, hunger overcame fear. She reached out and took the chocolate. The taste exploded in her mouth. It was sweet and rich, like nothing she had ever experienced. Her eyes went wide. Tears began streaming down her face. Jinho looked worried. "Are you okay? Is it bad?" "I am sorry. I did not mean to—" "No," Kira said, her voice breaking. "It is not bad. It is wonderful. I forgot that good things could still exist." Jinho felt his own eyes grow wet. He moved a little closer, still giving her space, but showing that he was there. "Good things do exist," he said. "I know everything seems dark now, but I promise light will come again. We will make sure of it." Kira looked at him for a long moment. Then she asked the question that had been burning in her mind since she watched Hana fight. "Are you demons?" Jin-Ho smiled. He reached into another pocket and pulled out a small photograph. He showed it to Kira. The image showed a woman with kind eyes standing next to a young girl about Kira's age. "This is my mother," Jin-Ho said. "And this is my little sister, Su-Min. They live on Earth, my home planet. I think about them every day. I became a soldier so that I could protect them and protect people like you." He paused. "Do demons have families?" Kira studied the photograph. The woman in the picture smiled at the camera. The young girl was making a silly face. They looked normal. They looked like people. "I do not think so," Kira said softly. "Then maybe we are not demons," Jin-Ho said. "Maybe we are just people who came a very long way to help." Elder Othani watched these interactions from across the temple. He saw Yuna healing the wounded with patient care. He saw Jin-Ho sharing his food with the children. He saw other human soldiers working alongside Valori survivors to build walls and set up shelters. Commander Revan approached him. "I do not understand them," Revan said. "I watched their Lieutenant Hana kill 12 Keth with a blade. She's a warrior like nothing I've ever seen. Yet now she sits with our wounded soldiers, telling them stories and making them laugh. How can such violence and such kindness exist in the same being?" Athani thought for a long time before answering. "Perhaps," he said, "that is what makes them so powerful. They understand both darkness and light. They know how to destroy, but they choose when to create. We called them demons because we did not understand. But I think we were wrong." He looked at Captain Tae-Woo, who was helping an elderly Valori carry water. "There's something else entirely. Something we have never seen before. Something the galaxy has never seen before." The sun set over Altheris. For the first time in 3 cycles, the Valori slept without nightmares. The demons of Terra walked among them, and strangely, impossibly, they felt safe. Warlord Sithrak stared at the holographic display of his remaining fleet. He had started this campaign with 100 warships. Now he had 63. 1 human vessel had done this. 1 ship. The shame burned in his chest like acid. "Warlord," his second commander said carefully, "perhaps we should request reinforcements from the homeworld. The humans are more dangerous than we expected." Sithrak turned and struck the commander across the face. The blow sent the smaller Keth flying across the room. "Reinforcements?" Sithrak growled. "I have never needed reinforcements. I have conquered 40 species without help. I will not be humiliated by these primitive mammals." He turned back to the display. His 4 eyes narrowed with hatred and calculation. "If we cannot defeat them in space, we will defeat them on the ground. Send every soldier we have to the surface. Kill everything that moves. I want that planet burned to ash. And the humans, Warlord?" Sithrak smiled. It was not a pleasant sight. The humans will try to protect the prey. That is their weakness. They care about these creatures. We will use that caring against them. Flood them with numbers. Drown them in bodies. Even demons can die. Within hours, thousands of Keth soldiers began landing on Altheris. They spread across the land like a dark tide, killing anything that survived, burning anything that stood. They moved toward the temple with terrible purpose. Captain Tae-Woo received the reports calmly. He gathered his officers in the temple courtyard. Lieutenant Hannah Kim stood at his right, her injuries wrapped but her spirit unbroken. Sergeant Dae-Seok stood at his left, a massive soldier with scars covering his arms and a heavy weapon strapped to his back. "The Keth are coming in force," Taewoo said. "Thousands of ground troops. Our ship can handle the orbital battle, but we only have 40 soldiers on the surface. We are outnumbered 100 to 1. He looked at his people. None of them showed fear. They had known the odds when they answered the distress call. "Our mission is to protect the civilians," Taewoo continued. "We hold this temple until reinforcements arrive. The nearest Republic fleet is 3 days away. 3 days is a long time." Sergeant Daeseok smiled. The expression stretched the scars on his face. "Captain, I have survived worse odds on worse planets. Remember the siege at New Singapore? We held for 5 days against the Krell pirates with half this many soldiers." Hannah nodded. "And the Keth are not as dangerous as they think they are. I have fought them. They rely on size and fear. They have never faced humans before. They do not know what we can do." Taewoo looked at his officers. Pride swelled in his chest. "Then let us teach them." The first wave of Keth attacked at midnight. They expected the humans to be sleeping. They were wrong. Humans do not sleep the way other species do. They rest in shifts, always keeping watch. More than that, human eyes can adapt to darkness. Human ears can hear sounds that other beings miss. Human bodies are always ready for danger, even in rest. Sergeant Daeseok was waiting for them. His heavy weapon roared to life, sending streams of fire into the advancing Keth. The aliens fell in waves, confused and dying. "They are using thermal camouflage," a Keth commander reported to Sithrak. "Our sensors cannot track them, but their eyes can see us perfectly. How is this possible?" No one could answer him. The Keth had evolved on a warm world with gentle conditions. They did not understand what it meant to come from Earth, a planet of ice ages and volcanic eruptions, of predators and diseases, of constant struggle for survival. Human eyes saw heat signatures because human ancestors had hunted in the dark. Human bodies ran hot because human ancestors had survived the cold. Humanity was not just a species. Humanity was a survival story written in blood and bone. The second wave came from the east. Lieutenant Hannah Kim met them personally. She led a squad of 10 soldiers through the ruins, striking the Keth from behind. They moved in silence, using shadows and broken buildings for cover. The Keth soldiers heard nothing until it was too late. A blade in the dark, a hand over the mouth, a body falling without sound. One by one, the Keth patrol died without ever seeing their killers. A young Keth warrior stumbled upon Hana alone. He raised his weapon to fire. Hana looked at him with cold eyes. "Your weapon has a charge time of 2 seconds, she said calmly. "Human reaction speed is 0.3 seconds. You cannot kill me, but you can run. I will give you that choice." The warrior fired anyway. His weapon had not even started charging when Hannah's blade found his heart. "Wrong choice," she said quietly. Commander Revan watched from the temple walls. He could not believe what he was seeing. The humans fought like nothing in his experience. They did not form neat lines. They did not follow predictable patterns. They struck from everywhere and nowhere, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. And they did not stop. Hour after hour, through the entire night, the humans fought without rest. Their bodies should have failed from exhaustion. Their spirits should have broken from the endless violence. But they kept going. How? Revan asked Taewoo during a brief pause in the fighting. "How do you maintain this pace? No species can fight this long without rest." Taewoo was checking his weapon. His face was covered in dust and blood. His uniform was torn in several places. But his hands were steady and his eyes were clear. "Humans are pursuit predators," he explained. "On our world, we did not catch prey by being faster or stronger. We caught them by never stopping. We followed them until they collapsed from exhaustion. We can run for days. We can fight for days. Our bodies are built for endurance." He looked at the Keth forces in the distance, regrouping for another attack. "The Keth think this will be a quick battle. They think they can overwhelm us with numbers. They are wrong. This will be a long battle. And in long battles, humans always win." The third wave came with the dawn. Sithrak had sent his elite hunters, the same type that Hana had killed on her first day. 200 of them charged the temple in a massive assault. Private Jin Ho stood on the wall with the other defenders. He was tired and scared. This was not training. This was real. People were dying. He saw a group of Keth climbing over the eastern wall. They were heading for the interior where the civilians hid. Where Kira was hiding. Jinho did not think. He jumped from his position and ran toward the breach. He was not the strongest soldier or the most skilled fighter, but he was fast and he was determined. He reached the Keth before they could enter the temple. His weapon fired in short, controlled bursts. One Keth fell, then another. A third swung at him with massive claws. Jinho ducked under the blow and fired again. Pain exploded in his side. A Keth blade had found a gap in his armor. Blood poured from the wound. Jinho fell to his knees. The Keth loomed over him, raising its weapon for the killing blow. Then the Keth's head disappeared in a spray of green fluid. Sergeant Daciok stood behind it, his smoking weapon still raised. "Get up, Private," Daciok said, pulling Jinho to his feet. "We are not done yet." Jinho pressed a hand against his wound. The pain was terrible, but he could still move. He could still fight. "The civilians," he gasped. "Are they safe?" Daciok looked toward the temple interior. The Valori were scared, but unharmed. "They are safe. Because of you. Now get to the medic and let her patch that wound." "That is an order." As the sun rose fully, the battle paused. The Keth had lost hundreds of soldiers. The humans had lost none. The demons of Terra stood unbroken, and the Keth began to understand something new. They began to understand fear. The second day brought quiet. The Keth were regrouping, and the humans used the time to rest and heal. Dr. Unipark worked without stopping, treating both Valori wounded and human soldiers. Her supplies were running low, but her spirit remained strong. An elderly Valori priest lay on a medical bed near the back of the temple. His name was Orin, and he had served beside Athani for 50 cycles. Now he was dying. The Keth had wounded him during the first invasion, and the damage was too great for even Terran medicine to fix. Yuna sat beside him, holding his frail hand. She could not save him, but she could make his final hours comfortable. "You should rest," Orin said weakly. "You have been awake for so long. Even demons must sleep." Yuna smiled softly. "Humans can go without sleep for a while. And you should not call us demons. We are just people." Orin studied her face. Her strange forward-facing eyes. Her warm skin. The strength hidden beneath her gentle manner. "Why do your people fight so hard for strangers?" he asked. "We are not your kind. We have nothing to offer you. Yet you bleed and die for us. I do not understand." Yuna was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was quiet and thoughtful. "Let me tell you about my planet," she said. "Earth is beautiful, but it is also dangerous. Our history is filled with darkness. Wars that killed millions. Diseases that wiped out entire populations. Natural disasters that destroyed everything. Again and again, our species faced extinction. Again and again, we survived." She paused, remembering lessons from her childhood. Stories of suffering and hope. We learned something from all that pain. We learned that no one survives alone. When disaster strikes, we must help each other. When someone calls for help, we must answer. Not because we expect reward, not because it benefits us, but because we know what it feels like to suffer. We know what it means to be alone and afraid. Oren's eyes glistened with tears. Your people suffered, so you help others who suffer. Yes, we carry the memory of our pain, and we use it to recognize the pain of others. That is what makes us human. Not our strength, not our ability to fight, but our refusal to ignore suffering when we can prevent it. Oren closed his eyes. A peaceful expression crossed his face. Then you are not demons at all. You are something far more remarkable. He passed quietly a few hours later. Yuna held his hand until the end. Meanwhile, Private Jinho rested against the temple wall, his wound bandaged but still painful. Kira had found him and now sat beside him, her small body pressed close to his for warmth. Tell me about Earth, she said. Tell me about your home. Jinho smiled despite his pain. Earth is a big place. There are mountains so tall they touch the clouds. There are oceans so deep we have not explored them all. There are forests and deserts and cities full of millions of people. Millions? Kira could not imagine such numbers. Yes, billions actually. But even with all those people, we still have room for everyone. And we still take care of each other. Most of the time. Kira was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "What happened to your father?" Jinho's smile faded. He looked out at the ruined city beyond the temple walls. He died when I was young. There was an accident at the factory where he worked. A machine failed. He saved 3 other workers, but he could not save himself. I am sorry, Kira whispered. Do not be. He died doing what was right. He died protecting others. That is the best way a person can die. Jinho looked down at her. When I became a soldier, I made a promise to him. I would protect people who could not protect themselves. I would be the one who shows up when others call for help. That is why I am here. Kira thought about her own parents. They had died trying to keep her safe during the first Keth attacks. They had pushed her toward the escape route and turned to face the enemy, knowing they would not survive. My parents died protecting me too, she said softly. Then they were heroes. Just like my father. Just like everyone who sacrifices themselves for others. Kira felt something shift inside her chest. The heavy weight of grief did not disappear, but it changed shape. It became something she could carry, something that gave her strength instead of taking it away. Will you teach me to be strong like you? She asked. Jinho looked at her seriously. Being strong is not about fighting. It is about caring enough to fight. You already have that strength, Kira. I have seen it in your eyes. You survived. You kept going. That is the greatest strength of all. Across the temple, Lieutenant Hana Kim sat with Commander Revan. The Valori warrior had been asking her questions for hours, trying to understand the humans better. You fought for 3 hours without rest yesterday, Revan said. I watched you. You killed over 50 Keth soldiers by yourself. How is that possible? Hana stretched her tired muscles. Training, practice, experience. I have been fighting since I was 15 years old. First in the streets of my home city, then in the military, then in special forces. By the time I joined the Republic Navy, I had more combat experience than most officers twice my age. But do you not feel anything? Fear? Doubt? When I fight, my mind is full of uncertainty. You seem to feel nothing. Hannah shook her head slowly. I feel everything. The fear is always there. The doubt never goes away. But I learned long ago that feelings do not control actions. I choose what to do. I choose to keep fighting even when I am afraid. That is the difference. Revan considered this. On my world, We believe that warriors should be free of emotion. That feeling is weakness. On my world, we believe that emotion is what drives us forward. Fear keeps us alert. Love gives us something to fight for. Anger fuels our strength when we need it most. Emotion is not weakness. Emotion is power if you learn to use it. Revan looked at his own hands. Hands that had failed to protect his people. Hands that had almost given up. "Can you teach me?" he asked. "Can you teach me to fight like your people fight?" Hannah smiled. It was a warm expression that transformed her fierce face. "I can teach you some things. But the most important lesson is one you already know. You are still here. You are still trying. That means you have not given up. That means you are already one of us." Elder Athani stood on the temple steps, watching the humans move among his people. He saw Yuna treating the wounded with endless patience. He saw Jinho sharing stories with the children. He saw Hana teaching Valori soldiers how to defend themselves. He saw Tae-woo coordinating with his officers, always planning, always thinking 3 steps ahead. These beings had come from across the stars to answer a call for help. They had risked everything for strangers. They had bled and suffered for people they had never met. Athani finally understood what he was seeing. These were not demons. These were not gods. These were people who had faced the worst the universe could offer and had chosen to become something extraordinary. They were the living proof that suffering did not have to create more suffering. That pain could become compassion. That strength could be used for protection instead of conquest. Athani raised his hands and began to pray. But this time, he was not begging for salvation. He was offering thanks. Thanks for the strange, wonderful, terrifying beings who had answered when no one else would. The gods might exist somewhere in the universe. But on this day, it was humans who had come. And that was enough. Warlord Sithric had finally lost his patience. He ordered his entire remaining fleet to focus their weapons on a single target, the Ragnarok. Every cannon, every missile, every beam of destructive energy pointed at the human vessel that had humiliated him. Captain Tae-woo stood on the bridge as his ship shook onto the barrage. Warning lights flashed red. Damage reports flooded in from every section. "Shields are failing," the tactical officer shouted. "We cannot maintain this defense. Engine room has taken critical damage. We have lost 40% of propulsion. Hull breach on decks 7 through 12. Emergency seals are holding, but barely." Tae-woo gripped the command console. He had known this moment would come. One ship, no matter how powerful, could not stand forever against an entire armada. "Can we hold long enough for reinforcements to arrive?" he asked. The navigation officer checked her readings. Her face went pale. "The Republic fleet is still 2 days away, Captain. At this rate, we will be destroyed in 6 hours. 6 hours. Not enough time. Not nearly enough time." Tae-woo made his decision instantly. He opened a channel to the surface. "All ground forces, this is Captain Tae-woo. Begin civilian evacuation immediately. Use every shuttle we have. Get the Valori off the surface and into space. Head for the 3rd moon of this system. There are caves there where you can hide until reinforcements arrive." Lieutenant Hannah Kim's voice came through the channel. "Captain, we do not have enough shuttles to take everyone. And if you stay to cover the evacuation, the Keth will destroy you." "I am aware of that, Lieutenant. That is exactly why we must act now. Every minute we delay, more civilians die. Get them moving." Sergeant Dacioc's voice joined the conversation. "Captain, if you sacrifice the Ragnarok, what happens to you and the bridge crew?" Tae-woo smiled, though no one could see it. "We do our duty, Sergeant. Same as always. Now stop asking questions and start loading shuttles." The evacuation began in chaos. Valori civilians streamed toward the landing zone, where human soldiers guided them onto transport shuttles. Children cried. Adults shouted. Fear was everywhere. Dr. Una Park worked frantically, preparing the wounded for transport. Some were too injured to move. They would have to stay behind. Una felt tears burning in her eyes, but she kept working. Private Jinho found Kira in the crowd. She was carrying a small bag with everything she owned. Her eyes were wide with fear. Jinho, what is happening? Where are we going? You are going somewhere safe, he said, kneeling to her level. The shuttles will take you to a hiding place. You will be protected there. But what about you? Are you coming with us? Jinho hesitated. He looked at the sky, where the Ragnarok burned under the Keth assault. He looked at the temple, where some civilians still waited to be loaded. He looked at Kira's face, so young and so scared. I have to stay, he said finally. There are still people who need protection. But I promise you, Kira, I will find you again. When this is over, I will come and find you. Kira grabbed his hand. Tears streamed down her face. You cannot promise that. You might die. Then I will try very hard not to die. He pressed a photograph of his family into her hands. Keep this safe for me. It is very important. You must return it to me later. That means we have to see each other again. It is a rule. Kira clutched the photograph to her chest. She wanted to say more, but a human soldier was guiding her toward a shuttle. She kept her eyes on Jinho until the shuttle doors closed between them. On the temple walls, Lieutenant Hana Kim prepared for the final defense. The Keth ground forces had seen the evacuation. They were advancing quickly, trying to reach the shuttles before they could launch. How many soldiers do we have left? Hana asked. 32, a corporal reported. Plus about 50 Valari fighters who volunteered to stay. Hana looked at the approaching Keth army. There were thousands of them. The odds were impossible. But impossible had never stopped humans before. Commander Revan appeared beside her. He carried a human weapon that Hana had given him. His hands were steady. I am staying, he said. This is my world. These are my people. If humans can fight for us, I can fight for us too. Hana nodded with respect. Stay close to me. Follow my lead. We will make these monsters pay for every step they take. The Keth charged. The final battle for Altharis had begun. In orbit, the Ragnarok was dying. Fire erupted from a dozen wounds in its hull. Entire sections had gone dark. But Captain Taewoo still stood on the bridge, still giving orders, still fighting. Target their command ship, he said. All remaining power to forward weapons. If we are going down, we are taking their leader with us. Captain, that trajectory will put us directly in the path of their main guns. I know. Do it anyway. The Ragnarok turned towards Sithrak's flagship. It moved slowly now, wounded and weakened, but still dangerous. The crew did not hesitate. They had followed Taewoo through a dozen battles. They would follow him through this one. On the surface, Lieutenant Hana Kim fought like something from legend. She moved through the Keth lines, her blades singing through the air, her body a blur of death and precision. Beside her, Commander Revan discovered strength he never knew he had. The humans had taught him something important, that courage was not the absence of fear, but action in spite of fear. Sergeant Daciot held the main gate with a squad of soldiers. His heavy weapon roared without stopping. The barrel glowed red from the heat. His arms ached. His vision blurred. But he did not retreat. Private Jinho fought near the shuttle landing zone, protecting the last transports as they lifted off. His wound had reopened. Blood soaked his uniform. But every second he bought meant more civilians escaping to safety. Elder Othani stood on the temple steps, watching the battle. He could not fight, but he could pray. And for the first time in his life, he felt his prayers meant something. Not because the gods were listening, but because the people fighting deserved to be honored. Brave ones, he whispered to the sky. Whatever happens today, you will never be forgotten. We will carry your stories forever. The shuttles rose one by one, escaping into the sky. Kira pressed her face against a window, watching the temple grow smaller below. She could see fire and smoke. She could see tiny figures moving in the chaos of battle. Somewhere down there, Jinho was fighting for her. Somewhere up there, Captain Taewoo was dying for her. These strangers from a distant world had given everything to protect people they had never met. Kira made a silent promise. If she survived this, she would spend her life making it mean something. She would become someone worthy of their sacrifice. On the bridge of the Ragnarok, Taewoo smiled. The evacuation was almost complete. Most of the civilians would survive. His mission was nearly accomplished. Captain, the navigation officer said quietly, "It has been an honor serving with you." "The honor was mine," Taewoo replied. He looked at his crew, these brave men and women who had followed him into death. "All of you, the finest crew in the fleet." He turned back to the main display. Sithrak's flagship filled the screen. They were on a collision course. "All hands, brace for impact. For Terra, and for those who called us." The Ragnarok accelerated toward its final target. The Ragnarok struck Warlord Sithrak's flagship like a fist of the gods themselves. The collision was visible from the surface of Alpharis. A new sun was born in the sky, bright and terrible, burning away the darkness of the Keth Armada. Kira watched from the shuttle window. She did not fully understand what she was seeing, but she felt it in her heart. Something important had just happened. Something that would change the galaxy forever. On the surface, the Keth army froze. Their communications went silent. Their formation broke apart. For the first time in their history, the soldiers of the Dominion experienced true panic. Their warlord was dead. Their command ship was gone. They were alone. Lieutenant Hannah Kim did not let them recover. She rallied the human and Valori defenders for a final push. "Now!" she screamed, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Push them back. Make them run." The combined forces charged. The Keth, already shaken, began to retreat. Then the retreat became a rout. Soldiers threw down their weapons and fled. The mighty Dominion army scattered like leaves in a storm. Commander Revan stood in the middle of the battlefield, breathing hard, covered in blood that was not his own. He could not believe what had happened. They had won. Against impossible odds, against the greatest military power in the known galaxy, they had won. Then something appeared in the sky. New lights, new shapes, new ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. For a terrible moment, Revan thought it was Keth reinforcements. But the voice that came through the emergency channels was human. "This is Admiral ECO Jin of the Terran Republic Third Fleet. We received Captain Taewoo's distress call and came as fast as we could. All Keth vessels, you are ordered to surrender immediately or be destroyed. There will be no further warnings." The Keth fleet, leaderless and broken, began surrendering within minutes. Ships powered down their weapons. Soldiers on the ground dropped to their knees. The battle was truly over. On Altharis, the survivors emerged from hiding. They looked at the sky filled with Terran warships. They looked at the Keth soldiers being taken prisoner. They looked at the human soldiers who had fought and bled for them. Elder Athani walked through the ruins of the temple courtyard. Bodies lay everywhere, both Keth and human. The price of victory had been terrible, but the price of defeat would have been extinction. He found Sergeant Daciok sitting against a wall, his heavy weapon resting across his lap. The big human was wounded in several places, but he was alive. He smiled when he saw Othani approaching. "Elder Priest," Daciok said, "it seems we survived after all." "We did. Thanks to you and your people." Othani sat down beside him. "What will happen now?" "The Republic will help you rebuild." "We do not conquer, Elder. That is not our way. We will help you get back on your feet, and then we will leave. You will be free to choose your own path." Othani was silent for a long moment. "And the Ragnarok? Captain Tae-woo?" Daciok's smile faded. He looked at the sky where the fires of the collision were still fading. "The captain did his duty. He bought you the time you needed. He saved the evacuation. He is dead? The captain is missing. The explosion was massive. Search teams are looking for survivors, but..." Daciok shook his head. "It does not look good." Othani closed his eyes. He had known Tae-woo for only 3 days. But in those 3 days, the human captain had taught him more about courage and sacrifice than a lifetime of religious study. "We will remember him," Othani said firmly. "We will remember all of you. Forever." The search teams worked for 6 hours. They found the wreckage of the Ragnarok scattered across a wide area of space. Most of the crew had been killed in the initial collision. But then, in the twisted remains of the bridge section, they found something incredible. An escape pod. Battered and barely functional, but intact. Inside was Captain Tae-woo and 6 members of his bridge crew. They were unconscious and badly injured, but they were alive. When the news reached the surface, the celebration was incredible. Valori and humans alike shouted with joy. Lieutenant Hannah Kim allowed herself to cry for the first time since the battle began. Private Jin-ho heard the news and immediately began searching for a shuttle to the third moon. He had a promise to keep. Kira was waiting when he arrived. She ran across the landing zone and threw herself into his arms. She was crying and laughing at the same time. "You came back," she said. "You kept your promise. I told you I would." Jin-ho held her tight. "I always keep my promises." Kira pulled back and pressed the photograph into his hands. "Your family. I kept it safe, like you asked." Jin-ho looked at the photograph of his mother and sister. Then he looked at Kira. Then he did something he had been thinking about for 3 days. "Maybe you would like to meet them someday," he said. "My mother loves children. And Sumin has always wanted a friend. Earth is very different from Altherus, but I think you might like it." Kira's eyes went wide. "You want me to come with you? To your world?" "Only if you want to. I know you have lost much. I cannot replace what you lost. But I can offer you a new family, if you will have us." Kira did not need to think about it. She had found something precious in the middle of destruction. She had found hope. "Yes," she said. "I want to come with you." 1 year later, a great monument was built on Altherus. It stood in the center of the rebuilt capital, where all could see it. The statue showed 5 humans: Captain Tae-woo, Lieutenant Hana Kim, Sergeant Dae-seok, Dr. Yuna Park, and Private Jin-ho. They stood together, looking outward, protecting those behind them. The inscription at the base read, "When the universe was silent, the demons of Terra answered." When hope died, they carried it in their bleeding hands. They were not our gods. They were our friends. Elder Othani stood before the monument during the dedication ceremony. Thousands of Valori had gathered. Terran dignitaries were present, including Captain Tae-woo himself, now fully recovered and promoted to admiral. "Today we remember," Othani said, his voice carrying across the crowd. "We remember the darkness that came for us. We remember the prayers we sent into the void. And we remember those who answered." He turned to look at Tae-woo. "We called you demons, because we did not understand. We expected gods of light and perfection. Instead, the universe sent us beings forged in fire and suffering. Beings who knew pain and chose to prevent it in others. Beings who knew death and fought it with every breath. Athani smiled. We were wrong about you. You are not demons. You are not gods. You are something far more remarkable. You are people who refuse to let others suffer alone. And in doing so, you showed us what we could become. He turned back to the crowd. Today, the Valori joined the Terran Republic, not as servants or subjects, but as allies and friends. We will walk beside the humans into the future. We will learn from them. And we will teach our children that when darkness comes, you do not wait for gods to save you. You become the salvation you need. Admiral Tae Woo stepped forward. The crowd fell silent. The Valori are a great people, he said. You endured more than any species should have to endure. You survived when all hope seemed lost. We are honored to call you friends. He looked at the monument, at his own face carved in stone. This statue is too kind. We are not heroes. We are just humans. We do what we can with what we have. We answer calls for help because that is what our ancestors taught us to do. But I am grateful for this memorial. Not for myself, but for those who did not survive. They deserve to be remembered. After the ceremony, Kira walked through the streets of the new capital with Jin Ho. She was older now, stronger. She had spent the past year on Earth, learning about humanity, finding a new family. She stopped and looked at the ordinary people around her. Humans laughing and talking and living their lives. They seemed so normal, so unremarkable. They do not look like demons, she said. Jin Ho smiled. They never did. We are just people, Kira. That is all we ever were. Kira took his hand. The hand that had protected her. The hand that had given her chocolate when she had forgotten that good things existed. The hand that had carried her through the darkest time of her life. No, she said softly. You are more than that. You are the ones who answer. Above them, the twin suns of Altaris set slowly. The sky turned orange and red like fire. But this time, the fire did not bring destruction. It brought warmth. And somewhere in the universe, other species heard the story of what had happened on Altaris. They heard about the humans who had answered a call for help. They heard about the demons of Terra who turned out to be friends. And many of those species began to wonder, if darkness ever came for them, would the humans answer their call too? The answer, of course, was yes. Because that is what humans do.